Welcome to the Economic and Destination Development Committee meeting for this Thursday, June the 24th, another virtual meeting. I want to thank all the committee members for being here today. I'm the chair, Belleville City Councilor Sean Kelly, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Attendance today, we are missing committee members Edgerton Boyce, Jill Raycroft, and we were going to welcome our newest member, Jeremy Lauren from Loyalist College. He's the Senior Vice President of External Relations and Business Development. And Jeremy got called out of the meeting about 40 minutes ago. And speaking of Loyalist, I was speaking with President Dr. Vaughn earlier today, and congratulations to all the students at Loyalist. They're having the graduating class of 2020 and 2021 over the past 4 days. They continue today and tomorrow. And 4,700 plus students graduating from Loyalist College. So congratulations to the students and their families. Well done and continued success in your future. Item number 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Anybody have anything to let us know about? All right, looks good. Deputations, none today. We do want to get the minutes from May the 27th, last month approved. You had a chance to review them. We get a mover, Councillor Alsop, seconder, Councillor Sanderson, all those in favor? Approved, thank you. Number 6 on the item is the Economic Development Activity Report. Karen Post, we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, so just again, a summary. I'm not going to go into detail on the items that are in the report. Just want to let you know, I think it's good for you to know the projects that the 3 of us are working on, some of the things that we're continuing to advance. I'd be happy to take any questions the committee may have on anything in particular, but for the most part, the report speaks for itself.
Any questions for Director Post? Blair.
Sorry, good morning. So Ms. Post, when do we expect extra resources to join? I understand we put a motion to recommend to council, and then where are they with that? Do you know?
Yes, I can provide the committee with an update there. So the additional staff resource went forward to council at budget time, and it was approved. There is an administrative review going on right now of staffing at the city, and so we've been told once that administrative review is complete and reviewed by council, they will move ahead with hiring. So I think at the earliest, we would start the hiring process sometime this fall. So it's not likely we'll have anybody in place before, I'm hopeful by November, but may not be before that.
Thank you, Manager Post. Anybody else have a question? All right, seeing none, we're going to move down to item number 7, the holiday market report. And Alicia, can't see where Alicia is on the screen, but I know I saw her moments ago. Oh, there you are at the top. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So yes, we were asked as staff to bring back a report around the development of a holiday market in Belleville. So over the past, I would say, month and a half, we've been having discussions with potential partners. And based on those partnership discussions, we're recommending a holiday market that would coincide with the Downtown District's Enchanted event. They're going into, I believe, their 3rd year this year, and it takes place traditionally from mid-November to mid-December. So we see that being a really great fit and partnering with the downtown primarily on a holiday market event. The report outlines a lot of the economic benefits of an event like a holiday market. Some of the few outstanding details we're still reviewing, but that we've outlined as options in the report are operating days. So we see a good fit in aligning when the holiday market would take place with some of the themes that have traditionally taken place with the Enchanted event. So for example, last year they had the Thursday and Friday evening shopping nights that also had some entertainment and music taking place. with the pedicabs last year, and then Saturday mornings were promoted as a for breakfast club. So that's an example of when we could coincide with some of those themes that are already attracting more people downtown. So I would suspect we would be looking at a 3 to 4 day market operation each week during that month of the event. We're also still looking into details around types of structures. So traditionally with holiday and Christmas markets, you see a wooden structure. If you think like the Toronto Christmas market, for example, anybody who's been to that would understand what I'm referring to. They are definitely the most traditional style for a holiday market, but some of the drawbacks with that is that they are very heavy and not very portable and not very easily stored. So those are just things that we're considering when looking at what a structure could look like for a market. We've also had some discussions with staff from the City of Kingston's tourism office. They operate a Love Kingston marketplace, and they have structures in their downtown near their city hall that are aluminum framed. And so they are quite light and far more portable and easily to store. So again, those are a couple of the options we've started to investigate, but we still have more information to gather when it comes to what kind of structure we would be recommending that we go with. And then the third outstanding item is location. So there's two options we've reviewed. We could look at smaller clusters that would be spread out throughout the downtown area. So for example, from the north end to the south end of Front Street, that we think would really allow traffic to be drawn from one end to the other. So potentially benefiting all businesses that are operating during the Enchanted event. And then another option that we're considering is looking at 1 or 2 key locations. So for example, we could have larger clusters for a market set up in Market Square and or one of the municipal parking lots. So again, there's a lot of details that still would need to be coordinated before we can recommend a final decision, but those are some of the options that are being considered and what that might look like. In terms of financial implications and what we would be requiring to put on an event like this, we're recommending a $60,000 budget that would be primarily for capital costs. So things like the market structures themselves, lighting for both the interior and decorative lighting for the exterior of the structures, signage and servicing. So that's around electrical and water if it's needed and we're able to do that. How that impacts the budget, we would be looking at sourcing that through MAT funds. And we're suggesting that we actually transfer the $25,000 that was previously budgeted for the commercial pop-up program. As mentioned in the report, we were unable to go ahead with that this year just due to not having the staff in place early on in the year, and that we would be requesting an additional $35,000 from MAT. The report does break down where that would put us in terms of MAT funds that would be remaining if this report were to be supported by the committee and then recommended to council. And in conclusion, moving forward in terms of next steps, if this were to be approved by council, we would be sitting down with operations and parking staff and working with our partners to help determine some of those outstanding items and then bringing those details back to the committee during the planning stage. So again, that would be determining the locations, what servicing we're able to provide and how that impacts costs and what the structures would look like and where they would be positioned. Based on preliminary budgeting and some preliminary discussions with staff, we think with a $60,000 budget, we could be looking at anywhere between 5 and 10 structures. I know that's a pretty big gap, but again, there's still a lot of those details that we're having to source out at this point. In terms of staff time, we think that following the model similar to Quinny-Licious, just based on the success of that event, would be a really good strategy. And we have spoken to the downtown district a number of times, Bay of Quinte staff and our chamber staff, and they would be supportive of that model as well. It would still require, I would say, a pretty significant amount of staff time from our office, just because we would be coordinating those groups and coordinating the conversations with the other city departments. But that would be how we would recommend moving an event like this forward. I'm happy to answer any questions if the committee has any.
Any questions for Alicia on the report? Councillor Alsop.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think it's a wonderful event. It sounds like it would be a great draw for local people and would certainly be something that would brighten up the downtown during the winter. My only question is related to the use of MAT funds. Are we confident that this is going to generate a significant number of overnight stays?
That's a good question. I would say no for this year, mostly based on COVID and still probably, we're not really familiar with what travel restrictions will be in place. But I think certainly if we're attracting tourists here for the Christmas season for shopping, this is definitely an added element that could help with that attraction. And considering that tourism and we're defining a visitor that's anything from outside of 40-kilometer radius, I think that we certainly have the potential to attract a visitor from further afar. So yeah, I think long term there could definitely be some economic spinoff when it comes to putting beds or heads in beds. I'm not sure this would be the year that we would see that, but I think over the next 2 to 3 years we could certainly reach for that goal.
Thank you, Alicia. Follow up, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, quick follow. Have we considered any other avenues for funding outside of MAT? Considering that for this year, we wouldn't be benefiting from a large number of overnight stays?
From staff's perspective, we haven't looked at sourcing funds from another space other than MAT at this point.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Manager Post?
Just responding to Councillor Alsop there, one of the challenges we have at this point, of course, is that it's in the middle of a budget year. So other than the 25,000 that we had earmarked for the commercial pop-ups, we didn't have a budget set aside. But what we're proposing is to spend some MAT funds that we've already generated. So we're not looking to spend funds we don't have yet. We're looking to spend funds that we already have sitting in the bank account.
Thank you, Manager. I just wanted to mention that I think with the partnership with Belleville's Downtown District, the Holiday Market, and I can speak to the Festival of Lights also in Belleville around that same time. I think it could be a real attraction, offer lots of energy to this area. And this Christmas will be different than the last one. I think more and more will be out as we move forward with the vaccines. My question is 5 to 10 pop-ups. How are we doing for the time factor, Alicia? It's really July next week. We know that summer goes by quickly. How can that be put together within, say, 8 to 9 weeks so we have a game plan come September or mid-September?
Yeah, I think it's something that, we wouldn't want to delay the time any further if we want to see this executed this year. So we're looking at a meeting in July if this is supported by the committee where it would go to council for approval. I think in the meantime, if this report is supported by the committee, we would be having those discussions between now and council's meeting in preparation for support from the council table. But yes, we definitely have to be putting a lot of effort in right now if we were to see this come to fruition this December.
Thank you. I'd like to get Catherine to weigh in from the downtown. Your thoughts after hearing that report.
Thank you, Chair. There's been a number of conversations that have been going on between Louisa and Alicia and Karen and I over the course of the last week or so. Downtown is definitely supportive of this going forward. We think it's going to be a really positive addition to an Enchanted event that, as Alicia pointed out, is in our 3rd year. Our aim from the BIA has been to very consistently take our events and grow them through additional partnerships. We saw that with Quindelicious in terms of a small idea that really took off, and that by us integrating our plans, that we find that we have a much stronger and better outcome. So certainly lots of discussion about how we can make it work and how we can do so. I think also looking at Ms. Raycroft's report in terms of planning it around an inclusion of the Santa Claus parade. We don't yet know because of COVID restrictions what that might look like, but there's certainly an opportunity for those groups to partner together, and certainly discussions we've had with Doug Stevenson, he indicates that it's something that he would support as well. So I think that there's a lot of work from a BIA perspective, from a city perspective, from the chamber perspective. And as I say, if hoping that this committee will approve it going forward, then the staff at the BIA and certainly the board are ready to put our heads down and start getting to work.
Stephanie, you had your hand up. You had a question?
Through the chair, I was just going to ask, like, are you thinking about using probably like the Hasty Peas? And I think there was discussions in previous meetings about like the Pinnacle Music, different stores that are open, and maybe those being leased, and then other people there's different vendors inside of some of these vacant buildings in the downtown area, which obviously would not be a huge cost. It would be the vendors, I think, leasing space within those areas. But is that kind of what you're looking at in some of this?
We haven't considered that from the holiday markets perspective. I know there are a number of groups that already operate commercial storefront markets, or these pop-up markets that you see over the course of a month. So those are already happening. I know of 2 that happened last year during the holiday season. So this report really focuses on creating that outdoor space and having those structures and space to support it.
Okay.
Thank you. Blair?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So we mentioned for the $60,000 investment, we're thinking somewhere between 5 to 10 vendors, and knowing that there's certainly more upfront cost here, so it'd be more expensive in the first year. There's also mention of vendors would pay a fee to occupy the structure. Do we have any forecast as what type of fee we're looking at?
Not at this point. We do have some experience with pop-ups now, and we have a fee structure for that. So that's something that I think we could review between the city and the 3 other partners that would be involved. And we see any fees that are generated really supporting the enhanced marketing costs. And I think it makes some sense that we could promote the holiday market as part of Enchanted events. So any marketing money that we can bring forward would just go towards beefing up the overall marketing plan for all of the things happening as part of Enchanted. And if we can incorporate things like the Santa Claus parade. So that's where I would see that revenue going.
Okay.
Thank you, Alicia. You have a follow-up, Blair?
Yes, thank you. So I think it's a wonderful proposal, and I like the idea how it could tie into, Save the Chill or Enchanted, or even the newer, more Magic, and then the Festival of Lights, the Santa Claus parade. We need energy in a dark time of year, so I think that's wonderful. I would like to see us maybe seek out some funding from other organizations rather than all from the supplemental hotel tax. Perhaps, the BDIA or the Bay of Quinte Regional Marketing Board, perhaps even Quinte Arts Council. I don't know that it should all be subsidized by hotel accommodations tax, particularly knowing that it's going to be difficult to measure or even gather overnight stays from this.
All right, Catherine?
Just wanted to respond to Blair's point. One of the challenges that we have is our dollars are allocated and go to the city in terms of what our budget looks like in January of each year. So in coming into this, some of the discussion we've had with Karen and Alicia is the fact that we don't have any additional money. Our money's fully allocated to all of the events and things that we're doing. And in addition to that, the BIA's had a huge dependency on grant funding this year in terms of being able to achieve it. So while I acknowledge the investment, that's one of the reasons why we want to look at integrating some of the things where it's already been allocated. Bay of Quinte marketing, the BIA marketing, holiday market. So we can leverage, we've already seen with Quintilicious, when we pool our money together, the outcome is certainly bigger than each of us doing it independently. But in terms of capital structures and those types of things, unfortunately, the BIA is not in a position to be able to contribute to that.
Thank you, Catherine. So any other questions? Okay, Carla.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment. When I saw this event proposed, or the idea, I thought, well, we're creating destination, diverting traffic to this area. We're enhancing our community, and we're going to be increasing economic like the people that are involved are going to economically prosper from it. So I think it matches the things that this committee is trying to focus on. Although it's not like the whole citywide, it's going to bring that community sense together in one place at a certain time of the year. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Carla. Manager Post, do we have to make the motion now to get this to go to council, this report?
Yes, please.
All right, can we get a motion? The motion would be to send the holiday market report to council.
There is a suggested resolution right at the beginning of the report. If someone
All right, yes.
is comfortable making that motion.
Is it that, okay, here's the recommendation that Manager of Economic and Strategic Initiatives Report number ECDEV 2020-19, is that it? Regarding the development of a holiday market in 2021 be received. And further, that the EDDC recommend that council approve the holiday market project in principle, and that $60,000 from MAD funds be allocated to this project. We're only asking for 35,000 though, right?
35 additional, yes.
Okay.
And maybe if I can say that time was running short on this. So in response to Blair's comments, we will do our best to find some other funding sources in addition to MAT.
Thank you. So can we get a mover? Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Carla Brown. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Well done, Alicia. Next, we'll go to the pop-ups on the Bay, which kicked off officially last week. Alicia, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So yes, officially kicked off last Friday. We've had some incredibly successful stories coming back to us from our vendors. One of our new vendors actually commented that during the first operating weekend, his sales exceeded his expectations by 3 times. And we had, I know at least one returning vendor that I've spoken to who's been with us for all 3 years said that it was one of the best weekends he's had since we've started pop-ups on the Bay. So those were some really great comments to receive back from the vendors. I've been in touch with all of them and I haven't received anything negative up until this point. One of the things that we've been really keeping a close eye on is how our protocols that we've put in place are working to make sure that we're creating a safe space for both the business operators and the patrons that are visiting. So far, everything we've executed is working really well with the fencing, the way it's set up for each space and the signage. So far, so good on that regard. We've had a really remarkable response, both verbally at the park and on social media in terms of the infusion of art in the space. So if anybody hasn't been down there yet, I definitely recommend checking it out. We've got 15 murals in total, 2 at the entryway as you're entering the park, and then the rest that are throughout the pop-up area. So I think it's just really elevated the space, and I couldn't be happier with how that whole process turned out. In terms of next steps for pop-ups, we're going to be finalizing some of the marketing. So as I alluded to at the last meeting, as part of this new plan, we've had to put a hold on any paid marketing that we would normally do in promoting this as an event until we hit phase 3 of the province's rollout plan. So between now and then, we'll be finalizing, now that we can have photographers and videographers on site as part of the first phase, we can start developing some of the content that we'll be using for marketing and get everything ready to roll out for that 3rd phase of the province's plan. As of June 29th, which is this coming Tuesday, all vendors will be open 6 days a week. So that's when we'll start our full Tuesday to Sunday schedule. And that's from 11 to 7 during those days. And we also have a new website this year that's been launched. So it's a full revamp on the popupsonthebay.ca site. We have vendor profiles with links to each of their businesses. So I definitely recommend checking that out as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia. Any comments about the pop-ups? I just wanted to mention last week I was there for the opening along with Councillor Sanderson and Councillor Alsop and the mayor. And I was speaking with some of the vendors, and I know that I've had a conversation already with the Manager Post on this, but I just wanted to bring it to the table today, since everybody's on this committee's involved with the pop-ups. I was speaking to one of the pop-up vendors last week, and they talked about a first aid center, that they had like a little first aid kit, but maybe that's something we should be looking at. And then the conversation went to possibly having a defibrillator there as well, because of the amount of people that we hope to attract this summer. So Manager Post, you and I had a good conversation about this last week. I just wondered if there was any follow-up for the committee that you could touch on.
Yes, thank you, Chair Kelly. So we did talk with our parks staff about that, and we are working to make sure that we have a first aid kit at the very least there. The defibrillator is a little different animal to try and locate in the park, but we are working on that for sure.
All right, thank you, Manager Post. That's it for the pop-ups update. Next is item number 9, industrial land summary. You had a chance to see that. Manager Post, back to you.
Just going to take a minute to share my screen here. Make sure that works. Can everybody see a map of the city, or an air photo of the city with phases on it? Okay, great. So I thought it might be beneficial to the committee to really get an understanding of sort of our strategy when it comes to the provision of industrial land in the city. So at one time, we had many different parcels of many different sizes throughout the city that were pre-zoned and serviced to allow industrial development. These parcels have now, for the most part, all been sold. A number of years ago, council made the strategic decision to continue to offer fully serviced and zoned industrial land to attract that kind of development. We know as staff that if we don't have a good inventory of a variety of sizes of fully serviced and zoned industrial land, we simply won't have an opportunity to attract that kind of greenfield investment. So the situation that we have right now, you'll see, if you can see my cursor, this part of the Northeast Industrial Park, the existing park is about 1,000 acres, and for the most part, it is fully developed. You will see the odd parcel of land that is not built on yet, but for the most part, these are held privately by local business and preserved for expansion opportunities. A number of years ago, the city extended College Street East, which is located here. The big building here on the north side of College Street, just for reference purposes, is the former Sears warehouse, which is now home to Hexo and Truss. South here is the Kellogg's investment. So a number of years ago, the city extended College Street East to open up about 200 acres of industrial land. So the city owns all of the lands that's shown here as phases 1, 2, and 3. The phase 1 and phase 2 lands are parcels of land that the city acquired many years ago. A portion of phase 2 and all of phase 3 are parcels of land that the city expropriated a number of years ago to allow for the expansion of the industrial park all the way east to Atkins Road. So right now, what the city has available for sale that is fully serviced and zoned and considered to be shovel ready are the lands in phase 1. So we have about 90 acres. We have already accommodated Electrolab. Vision Transportation has a 200,000 square foot warehouse facility where my cursor is. We have a new FedEx facility. Minimax is located on this lot. They have a new facility there. And we have sold or offers to purchase on lots A and B, and those purchasers are not public yet. The city has reserved a 20-meter allowance between lots A and B to allow access to this 90-acre parcel. So this right now is, for the most part, the inventory that we are selling. It's a 90-acre parcel. On the north, it is bounded by the Bell Creek wetland. This is a class 1 environmentally sensitive area, which cannot be developed. And it kind of separates this phase 1 land from Highway 401. So we're actively marketing these phase one lands. We do have considerable interest in this parcel, but there are some challenges in terms of being able to provide potential purchasers with the size of lot that they want. And of course, there are some additional costs associated with servicing those lots and putting the entrance in. We are working with staff in our planning and engineering department to look at the feasibility of putting a road into these phase one lands that would then allow us to create some smaller lots in phase one. You'll see a very odd shaped parcel running through the west end of the site. There is a proposal for a new interchange on Highway 401, and if that were to come to pass, it would be located just east of Procter & Gamble on Highway 401. And we have laid out a corridor to get that traffic from the new interchange down to College Street. And this is the pathway that will allow us to get traffic from a new interchange on the 401 all the way down to College Street in this location. So we are preserving this corridor just to make sure when that interchange happens, we have good access through the park to that interchange. So the situation we have with phase 2 and phase 3, as I mentioned, they are owned by the city. Phase 2 is currently designated industrial, although it is not zoned or serviced. The phase 3 lands are not designated industrial at this point, nor are they serviced. They are the subject of change to the city's official plan, which is being reviewed by the province right now. And if that change is accepted, phase 3 lands would be included in the urban service area, and they would have an industrial or an employment designation. So we would then be allowed to develop those lands. So the plan is the existing park is about 1,000 acres. We will have about 900 acres in phases 1, 2, and 3. So we will basically double the size of the industrial park. We know there is a need for this kind of land that is fully serviced and ready to go. We're planning to develop it on a cost recovery basis. So whatever it costs us to develop and service those lands, we hope to get that back in terms of the purchase price of that property. Before we can go any further into extending College Street East or any of the roads that might be extended from that, the city has to go through a substantial environmental assessment process. That process was budgeted at $500,000 a few years ago. We know that price has gone up, so we're expecting the environmental assessment will take probably $750,000 at this point. It would take approximately 2 years to do all of the studies and assessments that are required to be submitted to the province for approval. And out of that environmental assessment will come some preferred road servicing networks and layouts, including the crossing of Bell Creek. So you'll see throughout this site, you will see Bell Creek, which is one of the challenges we have to overcome in servicing the site. But the environmental assessment will look at the optimal location for crossing the creek in terms of costs and in terms of impact on sensitive land uses there. So I just wanted to give the committee a bit of an update on where we're at. We are just now at the staff level starting the environmental assessment process. If all goes well and quickly, in 2 years' time, we will be doing detailed design for the extension of roads and servicing into that area. And it's a big project. It's one we're very excited about. And when it happens, we know that it will generate lots of new investment for the city. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
We have a question. Sorry. Any questions for Manager Post? All right. Thank you.
Councilor Kelly, I just had a comment if I could. It's
Oh,
Chris.
sorry. Go ahead, Chris. Yes.
Yeah. First of all, I think it's great Karen's bringing this forward. I know when we did the target market study with McSweeney and Associates, and they looked at our region from investment attraction, they were really supportive of Belleville continue to develop their industrial land. What I'd say is you can't sell if you don't have the product. And right now, if someone came and they wanted 2 acres of industrial land in the city, because of the road frontage, it'd be difficult to find them that acreage. If someone wanted the whole 90 acres, yeah, we could accommodate that. But for the variety of lot sizes that we get inquiries on, a lot of times we just don't have the municipally serviced industrial land. And there are communities that have it, and they want investment ready or shovel ready land. So I think it's excellent that Karen's bringing this forward, and very supportive of having, you know, that inventory of land ready to go. So anything we can do at QDC to help, we're glad to do it. And it's a great initiative. You already have the land. Now it's just getting it investment ready or shovel ready. So we're supportive from QDC.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Any other comments or questions for Manager Post on the industrial land update? All right, thank you, Manager Post. Next, items 10 and 11 will be addressed from Manager Post as well.
Okay, thank you, Chair Kelly. So just to give the committee an update on the Work in Quinte program, that is the program that received rural economic development funding, and with the help of, or through actually Chris King, it received some Ontario Labour Market Partnership funding as well. So we now have a budget of about $190,000 for this Work in Quinte project. The steering committee for this project met last week, and we're well on our way to drafting the request for proposals needed to develop this Work in Quinte site. The committee may recall that this is the site that is going to take our Work in Belleville program, which is the program where we collect resumes from folks wanting to work and provide access to local employers to those. So this is the project that's going to automate that process, develop a new, much more user-friendly site for that, and give us a lot of money to market that. I guess that service that's available to any employer in Belleville or Quinte West. So we're well on our way to getting the RFP going for that. We hope to have a site ready this fall, and then extensive marketing of that program, both locally and outside of our region, to try and attract as many of the skilled workers that are needed in this region as possible.
Thank you. Any questions for Manager Post so far? No? All right. Anything further?
Just on the BRE study, so we finalized the questionnaire. I said last week I hope to have it out this week, and I'm hoping tomorrow we'll have it out. It's just been a busy time, so everything's finalized and ready to go.
All right, thank you. We're up to item number 12 and the update from partner organizations. And did somebody have a question? No. So I just wanted to say, this is I consider my second meeting as the chair for the committee. The first meeting I held, that template was still in place for the agenda. So I thought it was possibly a great decision to get the report sent to us, and they have been. However, then I had Ruth Estwick reach out to me, and she wanted to know if I had a heart. And I said yes. So Ruth and I had a good conversation. We have all these wonderful partnerships, and we want them to work with us. And we paper trail, and there's no questions, or they don't have a chance to expand. So we've come to an agreement, and I know Ruth is speaking on behalf of our partners, that they're going to watch their time. But I think I erred, so it's important to hear from them. We got the report, and they're going to highlight something that they would like to speak to. And we'll start with QEDC, because the chamber's not here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From Quinte Economic Development, I want to highlight a couple things. One, our manufacturers had reached out to us about accessing vaccines for their workers, and they were still having some issues with that. We worked with the health unit with some help through Mayor Panchuk. We were able to get dedicated vaccines for our manufacturers. We had a vaccine day on June the 12th, and a lot of our manufacturers, including a lot of the Belleville ones, took full advantage of that, and we had great feedback. So those workers that were struggling to find appointments in that, a lot of them are now vaccinated. So thanks to the mayor and the health unit to make that go. And we used our leverage with our manufacturing sector to make that go. And also we're doing a lot of work with skills upgrading of our existing workforce. A lot of our manufacturers are saying, hey, we need some help upgrading the skills. And we have that fund through Skills Advance Ontario. And we're providing dollars, 100% training funds for manufacturers to improve the skill sets of the people. So that's moving ahead. I'll leave it at that. Lots of good things going on. I wasn't able to get the written report, but I'll send a copy of our last board report to Karen, and she could share that at her leisure.
Thank you, Mr. King. Appreciate that. Up next, the QDAR report.
Yes, thank you, Councilor
Chisholm.
Chair. Yes, so I sent over, I think everybody has the stats, but I'm just going to highlight a few. So the one stats that we get from our board actually covers our whole board area, which is Prince Edward County and right up to Bancroft. But I got the Belleville stats. And so year to date, the average price is 566,000, but our May's average price is 551,000. So it's just down a little bit, which I'm kind of glad to see. So we've made a little bit of a curve. There is a number of properties where they held back offers and they didn't get any. So they're lasting a little bit longer. And we're getting more listings on as we are talking here. So year to date, our months of inventory last, it was 0.5 months. But for May, it was 0.6 months. So we're actually getting a little bit more inventory. It's like the industrial land. If you don't have it, you can't sell it. So, and when you have more properties coming on the market, they have a little bit to choose from. So we'll help keep our prices in line. So it's interesting, last year for the whole Quinte area, last year we had about just under $400 million worth of sales to date. And this year to date, we've got over $1.5 billion worth of property that we've actually sold. So that's up 290% for the same time period last year. But of course, last year when we entered into COVID, people were hesitant. We didn't know what to do. And so it did hold things back. So, so our residential sales to May 31st is actually up 58.6% from last year too. So there's some of the highlights. And I just also want to thank everybody that's here and with the economic, because everyone here actually makes Belleville a better place to live. And I really want to give kudos to Karen. She is amazing. We're very blessed to have her in Belleville. Thank you.
Mr. Chisholm, I have a question for you.
Sure.
If you looked at your crystal ball, do you see the prices of homes continue to stay the course, or do you see an end in sight in the market being so hot?
Yeah, I had a good discussion with our Canadian Real Estate Association economist, and he's been pretty bang on as far as his predictions. We're going to start to level off as our prices. You're not going to see, especially in the Quinte area, you're not going to see the prices go down, but they will stabilize and they'll start to level off, which I think we've actually started to see already. So that's good, because I didn't like what was going on, but it was happening. And so I think I've answered your question. We're going to stabilize and our prices will start to level off.
Follow-up question for you, because we know
Yes.
we have people watching today, and I recall you at a few meetings ago saying you've been in the business for 40 years.
47, actually.
How many?
47.
47 years. You just said something that you didn't like the way the market was going. Can you explain why you didn't like it the way it was going, so people get a better understanding of what you just said?
As a realtor, we would look at what sales were, we would put it on the market, and then we would end up with 12, 15, 18 offers, and you'd end up with 100, 150, 200,000 over asking. And a lot of this came from agents coming down from Toronto, bringing an offer in, and they really don't know our market. And so they were actually having people pay like an extra 100,000 over than what it really was worth. What it did then was push the market up. So then when you're doing your comparables, you look at that and it's all supply and demand, economics 101. So when you have less properties, the demand is definitely there. With our stats within our own office, we had in the last 30 days, over 500,000 people look at our listings. And it's just scary, the number of people watching what we're doing. And so Belleville is on the map as far as a place and destination place to move to because of what we're providing here, and just a better place to live. And they're coming out of the big cities because of what we're offering here. So hopefully that answered it there, Councillor Kelly.
Yeah. No, thank you. Good. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Any other questions for Mr. Chisholm? All right. Thanks for that report. And it's nice to hear some verbal comments from our partnerships. Up next, we go to the Quinte Home Builders Association. Ruth, welcome.
you, Chair. Thanks. And thanks for having a heart. I really, really appreciate you listening to me, because I think it's important that partners do get an opportunity to talk about, our impact on economic development in the city. So the QHBA continues to focus on land development and housing supply issues, really important matters to us across the region, but especially in the city of Belleville. And skilled trades is a big focus for us currently. We hope to have some exciting news to share. I was hoping to have something today to share with the committee, but we're going to have to wait till the next meeting to make an announcement in that skilled trade space. So that's all I have to update today, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any questions for Ruth? I have a question for you. I think it's fair to say, since I've been on council 2.5 years, along with Councillor Sanderson and Councillor Alsop and Councillor McCaw, we hear this all the time, skilled trades. And have we made any progress in attracting skills? I mean, folks taking the skilled trades programs. Do we have a good working relationship with our Loyalist College? Ruth, you've been involved in home building for a long time. What can we do, or what are we not doing right to get people to take up the trades?
Honestly, Sean, I think we hear that often, and I don't think there's one real answer to that problem, but I do think that working together in partnerships, working on programs, currently have a work integrated learning program with Loyalist. We've partnered with both school boards in order to talk about co-op programs and the promotion amongst our members. There's a bunch of other projects that we have on the go that we can't actually talk about yet, but I think just that changing the whole perception about working in the trades, not just with students and youth, that's very important, but also with parents and with the general community. I think, the whole stigma that exists with working in the trades and what it's like, and that it was, a career option for those people who maybe couldn't attend university or weren't set out to attend university, has changed. It's really, there's entrepreneurship, there's so much available opportunity in the skilled trade space for people. And I think that our job partly is to, send that message out there and help change the stigma. So I hope that answers your question. We've been working in the space for quite some time, and we continue to work on skilled trades initiatives because they're so important to our industry and to the economy.
Thank you, Ruth. Brad, you had your hand up. You had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could provide just a comment to back up Ruth here a little bit, because I know some of what we've been working on. Years back, we did the in-demand skilled trades research here locally. One of the key things that came out of that work was we need to get our youth a lot younger. The focus has often been in high school. So we put together a elementary skilled trades project. It's an Ontario Labour Market Partnership project. And so we are now and have been working for, unfortunately, COVID's affected a little bit, but been at the elementary level, grades 5 to 8, developing workshops, hands-on workshops, and we're working in partnership with 3 school boards to implement all this stuff. And we've also developed a parent-teacher committee page that's going live here shortly to provide support to those parent-teacher committees and to promote skilled trades to parents so that we can sort of debunk some of those myths around skilled trades.
Thank you, Brad. Thanks, Ruth. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Okay, Manager Post.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to try and quantify it a little bit. So I've been a member of the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program Steering Committee for 20 plus years. And just to put it in perspective, 20 years ago, we would go to the meetings and listen to the OEAP coordinators talk about the numbers of students they had involved in the various apprenticeship programs. And they would reference, we have two students in the cook program and 1 student in the construction program, 1 in the mechanic. And, always struck me as, wow, that's not many students. If they were lucky, they would have 30 students across both school boards into the apprenticeship program. And I can tell you that now when we attend those meetings over the last few years, they're talking about 200 and 300 students involved in those apprenticeship programs. So although it takes a very long time to influence students and parents, it is happening, it is working. It just, it takes a long time, but sort of the fruits of those seeds that were planted many years ago, we're starting to see now.
Thank you, Manager Post. Up next, we're going to go to BDIA. Would that be Catherine? No, who's going to speak to that? Oh, there is she, Louisa. Sorry.
Yes,
It's kind of weird looking at the screen. Sorry, I didn't see it. It's all blurry.
yes, yes. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm Luisa Sorrentino, the new ED Executive Director with the BIA. There has been a lot going on, a flurry of activities, and some of you may have already seen how downtown is looking so vibrant and colorful, thanks to all the work that has been put in to plan the Alfresco event this year again. The City of Belleville has just planted all these beautiful planters, and we have the tete-a-tete chairs, the parklets, the LED light installations. So we invite everyone to have a look downtown. We have made sure that they are dispersed throughout the downtown, so they're safe to visit for everyone, and enjoy, of course, the patio. And there is more shade and more seating options for everyone. Two other things have been happening this month that we're really proud of. So one of them, the first one is the Welcoming Street Steward, Sarah Baring, started on June 7th. So this was a result of a grant funded by Hastings County. So Sarah is an outreach worker that will be working with vulnerable population in the downtown Belleville, and to address a systemic issue that has been existing in Belleville downtown for a long time. And we're really excited because all the agencies have been nothing but supportive about this program. And Sarah has been out downtown, but also meeting all the different representatives of all the agencies that are involved with helping the vulnerable population in Belleville and in the downtown in specific. The other initiative that we heard about, and I'm sure you've heard about, we were just talking about Loyalist College. Loyalist College just recently announced with a news release that the new business accelerator will be open in downtown in the fall. So work is happening on the building, especially with the renovating company that Mark Turner runs that renovates all the beautiful facades downtown. So a lot is happening, and new change, and of course the beautification is always happening, but also in terms of community and building the thriving community that we want to see downtown is happening. So we're really excited, and we hope that everyone has had a chance to come and visit. And if you haven't, please do so. Alfresco is going to run until August, so you have a lot of chances to come and visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Louisa. Looks great downtown too. Job well done. Looks really good, and hope it goes well for all the businesses and vendors this summer. Thank you. Bay Quinte Regional Marketing Board, is Doug here today? I don't see him on the screen. So no report from Mr. Stevens. Next, we'll go to CFWD. Brad, where is Brad? There you are. You're up.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll be very brief. So excited about some things that we're bringing to the CFWD website, help with both from an LMI perspective, especially from an economic development perspective. As you have businesses looking to perhaps settle here and grow here, you often need some, they're seeking information behind that. So we now have our LM Help Desk. It will be probably launched officially next week. We're just waiting for the coding to be done to the website, but we do have a labor market analyst in place, and she can answer things hopefully within a 4-hour turnaround time for simple ones, a little bit longer for more complicated. That's part of the project going on across all of Eastern Ontario. So that LMI Help Desk logo you see sitting in our report is consistent across Eastern Ontario. There's some job search and mapping tools coming to the website as well. Hopefully I can update you at future meetings on where that's at. But the other excitement piece here is we often know that smallness, they struggle with their own HR issues and how do I hire? What do I need to know? And years ago, we put out an HR toolkit. It's been totally revamped, and that will be launched next week. That's my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Any comments or questions for Brad? All right, looks like you have no questions for you. We don't have a report today from the Quinte Arts Council. So we're right on to number 13 now, new business. Any new business? Manager post?
No new business today.
All right, thank you. Next meeting, Manager Post and I were discussing earlier this week, preparing for today's meeting. Is everyone good to go for a July meeting on the 29th? Does that work? Are we going to be short quorum for maybe those on holidays? Looks like everybody's good to go on the 29th. All right, thank you. So, and before we adjourn the meeting, I started this new feature and it went over really well. Of all the committee members and our partners, I received several emails saying they really enjoyed story time with Karen. And last time it was 2 minutes on Kellogg's. Story time, this is our last thing on the meeting, something positive, little history lesson. Manager Post, who are you going to share your story with? Who are you going to talk about today?
Okay, well, I had a last minute change to the sort of the history lesson for today. So a number of years ago, we participated in a provincial program called First Impressions Community Exchange. And it was a super eye-opening, incredibly valuable experience that we had. So what the First Impressions Community Exchange is where one community goes to another community, takes a look with fresh eyes. Typically you choose people that haven't been to that community before. You send them to the community, allow them to explore, record their first impressions, what they think about that community. You know, typically you make sure the folks go and visit all the typical areas in the community, the downtown, the commercial districts, you know, even the industrial parks, the residential areas. And then the same thing happens in reverse. So the other community goes to visit the other and they record their first impressions of the community. We did that a number of years ago with the town of Brockville. And what was so incredibly rewarding about that program was getting an understanding of what newcomers see when they come to Belleville. Of course, when we walk around Belleville, we tend to focus on the things that we would like to change. You know, we wish that maybe there was more green space on North Front Street, or, oh, we wish that, you know, there was something more in the downtown. But the feedback that we got from Brockville was an overwhelming appreciation of how beautiful Belleville was. And some of the comments that they made about Belleville was the floral arrangements, right? The greenery in Belleville. It's overwhelming how beautiful our parks are, how well kept they are, how they're literally scattered throughout the city. You don't go very far without coming in contact with parks. When they visited our downtown, they had, and this was long before we had redeveloped downtown, you know, they said it was incredible to see so many people out on the street. They were thrilled with the flower arrangements downtown. They said downtown was clean, the windows were clean. They loved the fact that there was a trail that went in behind downtown, so you could really get anywhere you wanted to go on the trail system. So I just wanted to mention that experience that we have with Brockville, because it really, for me as an economic developer, it really taught me the value of looking at your community with unbiased eyes. One of the comments that they made to us was particularly around downtown. And of course, sometimes we see vagrants or we see folks that hang around downtown every day that you know, might cause concern. But when a newcomer comes into your community, all they see are people in your downtown. They don't necessarily know that that person's been sitting on the, you know, sitting on the street for every day for the last month. They just see people in your downtown. And so sometimes I think that we need to give ourselves a pat on the back, maybe celebrate all the things that we do really, really well. And that was a big takeaway for me from that First Impressions community exchange. And we were able to provide that similar feedback to Brockville as well. And so anyway, just wanted to mention that because I think it's really important that we take a look at all the things that we're doing right in the community.
Thank you, Manager Post. Nice positive story. So looking at our community in different lens, we get different thoughts and ideas. So thank you so much for that. Any other comments before we call it a day and adjournment? All right, thank you. Do I have to make a motion, Councillor Sanderson, to adjourn? No. Oh, Councillor Sanderson says yes. Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Carla. And all those in favor? Listen, have a nice weekend. And if you're on holidays in the next week or two, get to the pop-up, spend some money, get downtown, have some fun, okay?